It is going to be extremely difficult to get through this video given the modern connotation of the word predator, especially given recent events. Oh god. Hello and welcome to my ranking of the Predator movie franchise, a sci-fi horror thriller series that has been running strong since 1987 with a recent revitalization by Dan Trachtenberg, who you may know as the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I wasn't super into the franchise until last year when both Killer of Killers and Badlands released, both of which spurred me to fall down this rabbit hole of these just absolutely amazing movies. Anybody who knows me in real life knows I've been completely fucking insufferable about these movies. Ever since I binged the franchise, I've become infatuated with the lore, the creature designs, and the motifs that appear through every single movie. Well, most of them. I fell hard and fast for everything these movies have to offer, save for one, but we're going to get to that really soon. Now, this will, indeed, positively contain spoilers for the entire franchise. Every single movie, there's going to be spoilers, so you have been warned. Don't bitch to me that you got spoiled because I gave you the spoiler, okay? Look, big spoiler right now. We will be going in order from the one I damn near detest all the way to the best one, both of which are probably going to be easy to predict, let's be honest here. I will not be including any of the games, except a little bit of the 2010 AVP game, nor will I be including the comics because I haven't really been able to dive into them that much. You'll also see me praising the Yautja in this with every single entry. I love the Yautja. They are one of my favorite movie creature designs, and just general creatures all around. I'll get to that though. They're just cool as hell in their lore and their depth. Even with the bad movies, there's so much to them. I just fucking love them. Alright, I think that is enough preface. Let's get started.
Stop it. Get some help.
If you know anything about the Predator movies, you know exactly why this is dead fucking last. If you're not familiar with the franchise or this movie, buckle the fucking. Let me indulge you on the rough plot of this before starting with anything else. We have two Yautja in this, by the way. I will be referring to them as Yautja rather than Predators because, again, look at the fucking year we live in. They are Fugitive and Upgrade. Fugitive is trying to give the humans a tool that will defend them against his kind, but crash lands nearby a soldier named McKenna. He is kidnapped for science by one Dr. Traeger. McKenna steals some alien tech nearby and then sends it to a P.O. box, which goes to his wife and autistic son. A scientist lady is recruited to study Fugitive before he promptly breaks out and goes to retrieve the gauntlet given to McKenna's son. McKenna meets a bunch of other military weirdos, including Coyle, played by Keegan-Michael Key for some fucking reason. All of them break out, take scientist lady, blah blah blah, bullshit happens, and we meet Upgrade. He is hunting Fugitive, who he kills, and stalks McKenna and the gang. When McKenna goes to retrieve his son kidnapped by Traeger, yes, I skipped a few steps. I'm just trying to hit all the important beats here, so I can just get this point across, because oh my god. He finds Upgrade back in his ship, doing some whatever the hell he's doing. Now, Upgrade's whole thing is that he's hybridizing himself with elements from other species like eyes, lungs, legs, exoskeleton, etc. This is important because in the beginning of the third act, he speaks to the crew through a translator that he wants McKenna. Fighting, bloodshed, gunfire, all that happens, and then the whole plot twist. It turns out that Upgrade doesn't want the experienced soldier and sniper McKenna. He wants his autistic son. Not to, live up to the name Predator or anything, but to extract his autism. So, as is said several times through the movie, advance to the next evolution. What? That is the vague plot synopsis. The vague synopsis. I skipped over a lot. A Yautja wants to steal a kid's autism to advance onwards in evolution. I wish I was fucking kidding, man. This plot is unbelievably ridiculous. In the skim version, there's a lot that I didn't mention. I left out how the Yautja are all apparently collectively deciding to become hybrids because they have human DNA in them. Humans are going extinct. There's horrible Tourette's representation that makes Tumblr's depiction of Tiki Toby from Creepypasta look like the pinnacle of representation. And don't get me started on the autistic son Rory. Actually, let's talk about that real quick. I cannot fully confirm how good or bad the ASD representation here is with Rory, but I can talk about continuity and general characterization. They forget his traits like halfway through the movie for whatever fucking reason. And I know one of the main stereotypes for autistic people is that they're super geniuses in tech, math, and science and all that stuff. But this kid's like 10, so how the fuck did he decode Yautja tech within like 2 minutes of getting a hold of the gauntlet? How did he hack into the ship? What? Get this kid in the lab so he can cure cancer if he's this fucking smart. There's also this line that genuinely infuriates me aside from the constant autism is the next evolution bullshit. By the way, I do not say that in a way to demean people who are on the spectrum. It is a phrase that's often used by people who are ignorant to what the disorder actually is. Anyway, the scientist lady, him, and the dad are all running away from fugitive inside of this school. Now, Rory, he's, whining, he's crying, and scientist lady, who knows that he is autistic, says, "Tell your kid to stop with the psychosis?" Huh? May I remind you, again, she knows that he's autistic. She's the one constantly saying that autism is the next evolution. She's a scientist, and any scientist, no matter what field, worth their fucking salt, knows what psychosis is. And also, let's not forget about the fact there's a 7-foot tall, beefed up alien with a plasma gun chasing them. Did we forget about that? The reason the kid is crying is not because he's overstimulated, it's because there is a fucking alien chasing after him and his dad, trying to kill or take them or whatever. He's fearing for his life. He's not overstimulated. He's not in psychosis either. If he was in psychosis, he'd be the only one seeing the alien. What is this fucking line? What? Okay, moving on. I just want to know, how do you extract autism? I just want to know, how do you extract autism as well? I know that the Outer are like really advanced. They have spaceships, they have all this cool technology, which I absolutely love through all the movies. But how the fuck do you extract autism? Is he gonna, like, take a spinal fluid, brain tissue? Like, him having new eyes and new lungs and new legs, that makes sense. Surgery. And their weird, really advanced medical stuff. I bet they have free healthcare, by the way. I know that they can do a bunch of stuff, but autism? Huh? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation for it somewhere. I don't know. I'm not gonna look into that because fuck this movie. Oh, we're not done, by the way. We're just getting started. This is a film by Shane Black, who was in the first Predator film, by the way, and is also the director of one of the only 3 Infinity Saga Marvel movies that I refuse to rewatch. Iron Man 3. I prefer Iron Man 2 over Iron Man 3. Sue me. Fight me, okay? He did write the script for Lethal Weapon for what it's worth, but I haven't seen it, so I will not comment any further on that. Now, the reason I mention Iron Man 3 in particular is because this movie feels like an edgy Marvel movie. The cinematography, the dialogue, the characters, this feels like a rated R Marvel movie. And I mean that in a very derogatory way. I love Marvel movies, but this is not good. This is the most derogatory sense of an MCU feeling movie. Every piece of dialogue is utter shit. Expo dumps, unnecessary jokes, and swearing that doesn't fit naturally, and just horribly written characters. I can't stand any of these characters, except for Keegan-Michael Key, but he gets a pass because he's Keegan-Michael Key. And he's just such a strange person. I know I mentioned this before. He is such a weird person to cast in a movie like this. It's not as bad as, Chris Rock in Spiral, the whole Saw spinoff. Because at least in this, he's in his natural habitat of, using comedy, but, genuinely would have been so much better to have experienced this movie as a Key and Peele skit. McKenna, and I'm talking about the father here, not the son, is a severely unlikable and edgy douchebag, and he's supposed to be the main character. A lot of my favorite characters are terribly unlikable, horrible people. James Sunderland, William Afton, so on and so forth. A lot of my favorite characters are menaces to society, for lack of a better term. But here, it's just fucking annoying. He's a shit father, shit human being, and his dialogue is more edgy than the Postal dude in the live-action Postal movie. To put it in fucking perspective, you cannot convince me that Rory is actually his son. They have such little chemistry it can't even be considered STEM anymore. As for the secondary-ish main character, scientist lady, who I have no desire to look up the name for, is literally the embodiment of those videos that make fun of how a lot of men write particular female characters, down to the mannerisms. She is a terrible scientist. As somebody who aspires to be a scientist one day, I hope I have the right to call out how terrible she is. I know it's kind of part of her thing. However, why are you calling the super intelligent alien warrior my space animal? Which made me gag, by the way. What the fuck? I love the evil scientist archetype to my core, but she's just terribly written for the sake of humor, I think. It feels vaguely to moderately sexist, honestly. In a series full of strong, well-written female characters, it is such a shame to see this. If it was the intention to make her a corrupt scientist, do what they did with Kurt Connors, Norman Osborn, since we're talking about Spider-Man. Or how about Victor Frankenstein, Jack Griffin? You can make a piece of shit scientist and still be enjoyable and not vaguely sexist. She's just a downright horribly written and executed character. I'm not done, by the way. I got more. Dr. Traeger, yes, I will continue the Outlast bit. Leave me alone. Is literally an edgy version of the CEO guy from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Like, carbon copy. Except this one says fuck a lot. The amount of times this movie says fuck rivals a singular season of Hazbin Hotel bordering on The Beekeeper. He is an uncompelling and frankly just downright annoying character. I'm still not done. Why does the wife have a painting of a woman masturbating in the living room for her son to see? How do you make gunfire fights so unbelievably boring? Where is the isolationist tension that the series is known for? Why couldn't we have gotten more of Fugitive and the literal mecha predator, you heard that correctly, mecha predator that he brought? Does Upgrade work with other Yacha despite being a bad blood, allegedly? I hate the lobotomized alien dog that serves as just a punchline, conveniently bringing the good guys exactly what they need in that moment. I just don't like it. This movie is also just ugly to look at with completely inconsistent visual tone. There's no visual identity to this movie aside from looking like a fucking Marvel movie. I'm not fucking done yet. Can I mention the soundtrack for a second? It is largely a reprise of the original movie soundtrack, and it's so aggressively out of place. Give it a listen in comparison to the original soundtrack, maybe watch some scenes between the two movies. Literally the only thing I like about this movie is Fugitive's little side plot, and he's only on screen for like 3 minutes. This was also the main film that took a leap into fully CGI Yautja rather than suits. Upgrade is fully CGI, which makes sense. I'm not upset about that. I like his design and his effects aren't terrible for the most part. I just wanted to make note of this. Okay, I think I'm done. This film was intended to be a new, fresh take while still also being a throwback to the isolation of the first movie, both of which it fucking fails. It completely misses what makes the first film so iconic as well as this movie's predecessors. All around a dog water movie, with its only redeeming factor being Fugitive's little side plot and also the posters. I will admit the posters for this movie go unbelievably hard. I fucking love them. It is an absolute shame that they were wasted on such a terrible movie. I love bad movies, I love corny dialogue, but when everything is just utterly annoying, I derive zero enjoyment from it. And therefore, I derive pretty much zero enjoyment from this movie.
Whose goddamn white baby is that?
Okay, I have a confession to make. While this is a very frustrating experience as a very technically flawed and lackluster film, I still enjoy this more than the next entry. I know, it's criminal, it's abominable, I'm sorry. The reason I have this here rather than one spot up though is because of how aggressively bad these flaws are. There are two central flaws with this movie, both of which we will dive into before going into what I actually enjoy about this movie. First issue, there are way too many characters in this, and they focus on the completely wrong ones. In my opinion, they should have focused on the wife/mother of the missing man and child, as well as the sheriff. They would have had this great dynamic we could have had in a great emotional climax, and just generally stronger characters, since we're actually focusing on them. But instead, we follow 30-year-old high schoolers, a military mom and her daughter. It all gets convoluted and bloated real quickly. And we don't really get any time to actually appreciate or like any of these characters. It is understandable why they introduced so many characters. This film is pretty much a slasher flick, so we do need our cannon fodder, but why not have these people in the background, or just, introduce them in that scene like pretty much any other slasher movie. Now for the part of the movie that gave it its notoriety. The lighting. Oh god. The lighting in this movie makes Godzilla 2014 look like Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It is so atrocious. It is so fucking dark, no matter what version I watch. I've seen this on Hulu in a pitch black room, and I've seen the unrated DVD version during a thunderstorm. Yes, I bought the DVD for this, the unrated version again. And both versions are so poorly lit. Oh my god. Even the scenes that are supposed to be taking place during the middle of the day look like they're taking place at sunrise. The likely reason for this is to cover up visual issues with poor costume designs, flaws in suits, effects, so on and so forth. It has been a technique that's been used in cinema for pretty much its entire existence. There's nothing wrong with actually using this technique. It can work, but at least try to show something. I'm not even kidding when I say you can barely see anything in this movie. The most you can really see are the face huggers and the chest bursters, and even then, the camera placement which is another big issue. The camera placement is so dreadful. On top of the actually terrible lighting, the cinematography is so disjointed. We're here and there, and it feels like you're on Space Mountain. It just gets ridiculous at some point. And you know what really rubs salt in the wound? We have two really awesome aliens here. We have Wolf, a veteran Yautja with a kick-ass design, and is an absolute beast. And then we have the result of Mpreg. Yes, Mpreg is canon to the AVP universe. Spawning from a Yautja corpse is a hybrid between a Yautja and a Xenomorph. The ugliest motherfucker in the franchise, the most underutilized creature. One of the strangest yet awesome designs I've ever seen in any sci-fi horror. The Predalien. I know, super creative name. Look at this bastard, literal bastard by the way. They hide this metal as fuck design almost entirely. You don't have to show the creature right in the spotlight. The beauty of the first Alien movie is the mystery of what the Xeno is and does. But it's on screen quite a lot, and we can barely see anything more than its face. We barely see Wolf, if at all. Literally the only way I can ever draw him is by using figures of him as references. That's how bad it is. It's utterly ridiculous how bad the lighting is in this movie. Watch it, I'm serious. You'll be squinting the entire time trying to decipher what these silhouettes are. And again, like I said, it's not just the fault of the terrible lighting, but also the terrible camera work. This movie runs like a Resident Evil game. Oh my god, visually and tonally, this feels like Resident Evil 2. They even bomb the entire town full of monsters at the very end. This feels like a video game. A really badly done AVP game. Now, objectively, this is a shit film. It is terrible in almost every single field, save for the creature designs. The acting is terrible. Plot's terrible. Pretty much everything about this is just god-awful. It's a slasher, pretty much, and it's just not good at all. But, as I've confessed to earlier, I still have fun with this movie, honestly. This is a Michael Bay Transformers movie turned alien slasher turned Resident Evil 2 ripoff. The alien slasher part of this movie is bananas. It is downright insanity. Unlike the previous AVP film, which we'll get to soon, this is rated R, so they went all out on the gnarly shit. People get decimated, kids get eviscerated, the entire hospital scene still makes me squirm so badly. I watch a lot of body horror, I watch a lot of violent movies, but the entire duration that we're in the hospital, oh my, ugh, it's so gross. Seeing Xenos just wreck shit is so cool, and whenever the Predalien is actually on screen, they do not do a very good job of actually building up how much of a menace it actually is. Watching Wolf also kick ass is equally as awesome. Upon rewatch, he did get a lot more screen time than I actually remembered, but I do wish he had a lot more screen time. Everything bad here can also be hilariously entertaining. If you love bad movies, this is a must watch. Whether you've seen any of the previous Alien or Predator or AVP movies, you need to watch this. It is so ridiculous. This is a low-budget fanfic sequel that deserved so much better, but it ultimately squanders its potential. That is what's truly angering about this film. It squanders everything that would make this at the very least an awesome bloodfest with great alien combat. It doesn't even do that though, because you can't see any of it. You can see the gore, you can see the weird body horror, especially with the chest bursters. Oh my god, again, that hospital scene. Ew. I just really wish they did more. It's tragic, but hopefully Trachtenberg and Fede Alvarez can revamp this Doom fanfic franchise. Hell, if I had the time, I would rewrite the entire film on my own, making my own little fanfic. It's a shit film, but it's honestly kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Get the unrated version, get some popcorn, and just have some fun with this movie.
Fortnite. This is the video game Fortnite, right?
The more that I watch this movie, the more I honestly come to dislike it. Is it a bad movie? Not necessarily. However, it is pretty mediocre upon rewatch. The first time I watched it, I did have fun, especially with the twist of the movie being that it's on a different planet/moon. I think it's a moon. I'm pretty sure it's a moon. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's a different celestial being. There we go. There's some fun action and some really nice scenery, but that can only go so far. It is such a travesty that this film is as underwhelming as it is because 1, the absolutely stacked cast, which I will get to, by the way. 2, the whole plot of 8 hand-picked killers being thrown onto this unknown planet/moon/body of something to be hunted by the Outfit. That's cool as fuck. And just the whole hunting ground thing. That is awesome, and it did inspire a game called Predator Hunting Grounds. I have not played it, don't really want to play it, I don't like playing co-op games. I like the Yautja design, and I'm pretty sure that the player count is in the single digits now. Anyway, let's run through the cast real quick, because I'm gonna grab you by the shoulders and shake you violently when I say this. What the fuck is this cast? First, we have Adrian Brody as a US Black Ops. Yes, the guy from The Pianist. This guy. Yeah, he's the main character. Then we have Alice Braga as an IDF sniper. I'm going to butcher this. Oleg Takhtarov as a Russian soldier. Danny Trejo as a cartel member. Mahershala Ali as an RUF officer. Walton Goggins as a convicted murderer and rapist. Luis Ozawa as a Yakuza member who, fun fact, actually voices Kenji and Kiyoshi in Killer of Killers. And finally, Topher Grace as a doctor slash serial killer. Oh, also, Lawrence fucking Fishburne is in this as an isolated scavenger for like 10 minutes. I was not lying when I said this film was stacked, okay? However, these amazing actors' talents are largely wasted on a script that just expo dumps rather than developing the actual characters. The only two characters that get any sort of semblance, and that's me being very generous here, are Adrian Brody and Topher Grace. The acting is pretty stilted on top of the less than stellar script. I know I flip between loving and hating bad acting in a movie, but I believe the art of bad acting entirely depends on the vibe of the movie. In an entry later, I'm way more forgiving on the bad acting, but in this, where it's supposed to be significantly more serious, the tone of bad acting and bad script writing just really does not fit. Hypocritical? Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the vibes for me, and the vibes here are really off. Topher Grace is supposed to be a twist villain here when they find out that he is a serial killer, or he reveals that he is. And, you know, they didn't really need one in a movie with the alien warriors. I mean, it's not the worst thing, it's an interesting idea, but it is such an obvious fucking twist. Once he goes full mask off, I kid you not, he says,
"I'm a freak. But here, among the monsters, I'm normal."
Fucking crazy writing, man. If I had a nickel for every time Topher Grace was given an obvious twist villain role that was executed with pure camp and shoddy script writing, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice. Still going on about the characters here, we have one of my least favorite characters of the franchise, excluding everybody from The Predator, Isabella. She's not only incredibly annoying, but makes 0 sense as to why she's even here in the first place. She lands a total of maybe 2 shots in the entire runtime, and that's me being generous. The rest of the time, she shoots like a stormtrooper blindfolded. She tries to kill herself, and she's constantly needing somebody else to save her. Again, feeling a little bit misogynistic here. She's constantly riding off the back of Brody. Gee, I wonder what the allegory is here. And just gets under my skin. Not once during this movie does she prove that she is a competent, let alone good warrior. So why is she here? I don't know. It's so bizarre to me. In a franchise with so many strong female characters like Leona, Naru, Thea, Lex, Ursa, this is beyond a fumble. Now, like I've said, the entire premise of this hinges on the setting of the hunting grounds. Sometimes we see other alien beasts, remnants of humans, and eventually we meet Lawrence Fishburne, but it is ultimately underutilized. This is an alien sanctuary, a game ground, and we're not having scenes where they're trying to scavenge for resources, more scenes of them fighting the local fauna, the Yautja hunting the other animals. There's so much that can be done here. The campsite where the Yautja hang out is a very, very, very well constructed set. It is so cool. It's grotesque, full of bones and corpses, just pure fucking awesomeness. And there's also a Yautja kind of crucified. His name is Crucified, so we're just gonna say that's what it is. Absolutely metal as fuck. I'm glad we have the final confrontation here, but like the Yautja residing in it, it is also very underutilized. Oh yeah, final confrontation, let's talk about that. It's fun the first time around and is a pretty fun callback to the first movie. I did have a good time with it, but it feels just a tad too short upon rewatch. I'm glad they actually did utilize the whole using your brains thing instead of just relying purely on strength, which some other movies do here. But it's so short-lived, and there could have been just a little bit more strategy here. It's a decently fun, flashy fight. I've seen worse in the franchise. I mean, again, look at what's at the bottom of the list. Now, I gotta yap about the Yautja. There's 4 in this film. We have Tracker, Falconer, Crucified, who I mentioned earlier, and Berserker. Their designs, like all the other Yautja, are really well done. The effects here are done by Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero, who are both very, very well-respected VFX artists. They do a phenomenal job here. The designs and the articulation on the Yautja look incredible on this. Berserker, who I actually have, I believe is the Haya Toys figure of, is one of the most unique looking in the franchise. Between his metal as fuck biomask, which I believe is made with a xenomorph jaw, and his really bizarre head shape, he's very colorful in the face, and his dreads have some red to it. He's really unique looking, and a lot of people might not like that. I like it though. I do wish we got to see more of him. He seems to have a really interesting backstory, and he's kind of just a bully. He's shown to be really strong, really persistent, and according to the fandom wiki, he apparently has this really cool backstory. I wish we got a little more of that, but he has such a personality that we don't get to see. Honestly, if you want to know more about him, just read the fandom wiki. It's so interesting. Despite the glaring flaws with the characters, dialogue, setup, and execution, it's an okay enough film. It's watchable. It's not my favorite, but it's alright. It's not downright offensive. It's an competent movie, but it's just, not my favorite.
Want some candy?
Is this movie a stark contrast to the original? Yes. Does it largely lose the brains over Braun motif? Yes. Does it take several directions that are largely left unfulfilled, like the cartels, Leona's pregnancy, the high-level corruption? Yes. But is it a fun, borderline slasher LA detective thriller with aliens? You're goddamn right it is. I often see this movie compared to Lethal Weapon, but again, I haven't seen it. I know Danny Glover's in both of them, but I'm not going to touch the movie because I haven't seen it. This is a partial sequel to the first film, directly referencing Dutch and his encounter with the Yautja, as being held under investigation by a special task force entirely composed of white guys who look completely identical to the point I thought they were all Sins. Oh, speaking of the Alien franchise, this is the first film that fully establishes a connection between the Predator and Alien franchise, showing a xenomorph skull amongst a collection of trophies in the end. This is a film that does a crazy amount of development not only for the Yautja as a species and a culture, but how humanity is responding to their existence. The plan for this movie was to bring the Yautja to the quote-unquote concrete jungle amidst the heat wave of LA, which has become the prime setting for them to hunt the strongest warriors in. This is also the movie that has my absolute favorite Yautja, the City Hunter. A trend you'll notice, especially among the earlier movies, is that they love to talk shit, and City Hunter is one chatty bastard. He is played by Kevin Peter Hall, who also played the original Jungle Hunter Yautja, though the voice actor was replaced by yet another voicing icon, Hal Rail. He gets a lot of screen time, and yes, Stan Winston also worked on the VFX for him. His design goes unbelievably hard. We learn more about the technology, and strangely enough, their moral code. While in the first film it is established that they hardly attack unarmed civilians, this movie solidifies that they also do not harm children nor pregnant women. With each movie, we learn just how intelligent and sophisticated the Yautja are, and this is by design. The intention with the Yautja in this was to demonstrate that they are not murderous psychopaths, but rather intelligent warriors. City Hunter isn't the only Yautja in this film, by the way. We also get introduced to an entire pack of them, including an elder who fucking speaks English, albeit briefly. Say what you want about the human side of the story, you cannot deny that the developments for the Yautja are significant and just purely awesome. Now, actually getting to the human side of things, it was clear from the beginning that all these stories were overlapping tremendously. The alien task force, the cartels, the gangs, the high corruption, the alien himself, Mike Harrigan, Danny Glover's character, being at the center of it all. Over the course of the film, the LA riots and the drug overlord shenanigans take a backseat to the alien task force, which while it does make sense, I just wish they'd developed more or implemented more of the cartel stories. Even when we're about to see King Willie from the Jamaican cartel force face off against the City Hunter, it just cuts to him being already dead. It makes sense why they do this again, however, I just wish there was a little bit more, or at least more fluidity between all these plot lines. It does overarch kind of in the end, mostly with Mike Harrigan's character, however, as a whole, it kind of just feels here and there. Not as here and there as it could be. It's still fluid enough. It still connects everything decently well. But I just wish there was a little bit more of connection between everything. As for the technical aspects of this movie, my god, the acting is terrible. Everyone is constantly yelling their lines. The delivery can just get obnoxious at times. It's actually not the worst. I think here, because of the vibe of this being a sequel to an iconic movie in the 90s, I think it works. The general vibe of this movie, it does allow for the bad acting. It's entertaining, and it also puts a time capsule on this movie much like other action thrillers like Escape from New York or Die Hard. The way this movie is shot also reeks of 90s action thriller, but it's just so much fun, at least for me. This is just a fun film with my general transgressions coming from the general lack of human plot in some areas. Though I would honestly rather have the human plot lacking than the Yautja plot, if I'm going to be completely honest here. Again, the amount of development for the Yautja in this, holy shit, they do so much. It makes complete sense why, despite having a higher budget, this movie only made about half the original earned in the box office. It's a very stark contrast to the original, but god damn it, it's such a fun movie.
To the roar.
One of the 2 Predator films that released in 2025 was the animated anthology film Killer of Killers. We have 3 stories that overarch into one big fight at the end. A Viking on the quest for revenge, a disgraced royal brother in the Edo period of Japan, and a quick-witted pilot from World War II all fight against the Yautja within their respective times, then get handpicked to face off against one another. Anthology films have a tendency to be redundant. However, each segment here is equally as compelling. My personal favorite would be Ursa the Viking. By the way, her son is voiced by Damien from Smosh. I just want to put that out there. The art style on display here is similar to other more unique styles that we've seen rise up over the last near decade with Into the Spider-Verse, and I believe the main inspiration for the art style here, Arcane. It's a fun, unique, gritty, and aesthetically perfect style. Each segment has a beautiful color palette that just fits perfectly within the time period, the vibe, the mood, everything. Every single frame can be a painting. I fucking love not just the scenery, but the character designs. Oh my god. Let's talk about the Yautja. We have 4 central Yautja here, excluding all the guards and bystanders. Grendel in the Vikings segment is an absolute beast. Oh my god. Easily 10 feet tall, glowing red eyes. One of the most jacked physiques we've seen of any Yautja on screen. This is a cryptid on steroids. Yikes. The name Grendel derives from the story of Beowulf, a beast who becomes the champion of the underworld. Absolutely badass. In the Edo period, there's Oni. His appearance is rather strange, largely due to the lack of upper mandibles. Yet again, he's fucking aura farming just like every single one of his kind. Then there's the pilot from World War II, who is the very first bald Yautja that we see on screen. He reminds me a lot of Plo Koon from Star Wars. Y'all see this, right? They look so similar. He fights solely through air dogfights, which you'll see a pattern among all 3 of these segments. All of them have very vastly different ways of fighting, not just from the Yautja, but also from the humans. Ursa, Genji, and John all embody different fighting styles. The sheer range of weaponry and techniques used here blows my mind. A lot of these films can feel a bit redundant with a near constant gun usage, especially pre-Trachtenberg. Like the main weapon you would see through a lot of the older movies, even all the way up through The Predator, which came out 2018. Almost every single one of them would rely purely on guns. So seeing this array of fighting styles, melee, range, all that, not only does it make sense narratively, but it's just so fucking awesome to see. On top of that, despite the short amount of time we spend with each of these characters here, they're each very compelling in their own right. Ursa is seeking to avenge her father. Genji has a complex relationship with his father, especially after becoming a shinobi while watching his brother become ruler. And John is trying to prove his worth. Of the 3, John is probably my least favorite purely because of the final fight where he goes full quirky American, constantly cracking jokes and one-liners. There's nothing wrong with this segment at all. It is still really fun and pretty good, albeit a lot more cartoonish than the previous 2 entries. Oh, let's talk about that final fight, and that 4th Yautja. Meet the Warlord, also known as Grendel King, a hulking, muscular beast with a cloak of xenomorph tails allegedly, and the ribcage of God knows what. He's arrogant but intelligent, leading the Warlord clan who thirsts for bloodshed. If this isn't aura farming, I don't know what is. On top of all of that, he gives us our first taste of the new spoken Yautja language, developed by Burton Watkins, which will also be used in Badlands. I absolutely love this guy, even though he has 5 minutes of screen time. Anyway, the fight here takes place in a coliseum of sorts. Formidable enemies are frozen cryogenically for later usage, which is the big twist at the end of the movie. And they're used here for this giant pit fight where they all must battle each other, other aliens, and then the last one standing gets to take on the Warlord. These 3 humans from vastly different time periods and regions and fighting styles must come together to fight against the aliens and escape, which they do through the personality barriers, through the language barriers, through different motivations and wanting to kill the Yautja. Oh my god, it is so cool. John, again, kind of does get on my nerves a little bit, but he does serve a very important role here. And the rest of the segment absolutely rules, especially toward the end. Oh, it's so good. The art style, the fights, the compelling stories, evolutions on the lore, badass designs. This movie rocks and leaves me dying for more. I do wish this movie didn't leave on a cliffhanger. Maybe there will actually be future anthologies, maybe a Predator TV series, something like this. I'm definitely going to be saying this again, but I think it is safe to say that the Predator franchise, the future for it is safe in Dan Trachtenberg's hands. He knows how to not only make awesome Yautja, who can be intimidating, really cool, understandable in culture, but also really compelling human characters. One of my main criticisms for the movies that I don't enjoy as much as others would be that the humans are severely underdeveloped and are kind of just there. Kind of similar to how in the MonsterVerse movies, Godzilla vs. Kong, all that shit, the humans progressively became less important. Which is kind of the track that Predator movies were going through for quite a while, until Trachtenberg kind of just reeled all that back in and said, nope, humans are equally as important as the Yautja. Let's get a hold of ourselves and let's do some good shit. And that's what Prey does, and that is especially what Killer of Killers does. Creating such complex, easy to root for characters in such a time constraint. This movie is only 90 minutes total. That is less than 30 minutes per segment. And they pull it off so well. It is astonishing. I love this movie so much. We did hit this with the previous movie. However, we are now in the saga of Predator movies that I absolutely fucking love.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
There is a category of movies that I love, which I can only describe as hell yeah movies. Pacific Rim, Blade, Speed, Evil Dead 2, Godzilla vs. Troya. Movies where I can just go hell yeah for at least 70% of the runtime. Alien vs. Predator is the ultimate fanfic film brought to life in all its aggressively 2000s glory. When I first watched this movie, I went into it expecting it to be essentially like Freddy vs. Jason. AVP fucking rocks. It's not like Freddy vs. Jason. I love Freddy vs. Jason, but this is peak. This movie was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who is responsible for several of the live-action Resident Evil movies, the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, and Event Horizon, which I think single-handedly gives him every right to make a collaboration between the two biggest sci-fi horror franchises. Event Horizon is such a metal as fuck movie. Go watch it if you haven't seen it before. Anyway, this is a very divisive film, understandably so. It's not nearly as divisive as, say, Predators or Predator 2, but it can be a little here and there for a few reasons. Collaboration films, again referencing Freddy vs. Jason, don't typically ooze high-quality, big-budget productions. AVP is riddled with goofiness, peculiar CGI here and there, and an odd Yautja suit, which I will get to. But god damn it, I love this movie so much. It may be schlock, but it's my schlock. It was goofiness made with love. We have Weyland-Yutani scientists investigating an ancient buried temple dedicated to Yautja coming-of-age ceremonies, which they kind of find out the hard way. 3 Yautja brothers interfere with the operation as a fucking xenomorph queen is brought out of cryostasis to spawn in some Xenos. The movie's climax has Scar, one of the brothers, teaming up with Lex from Weyland's commission to fight against that Xeno queen. It is so peak, guys. It is absolute fucking cinema. The lore implications on how the Yautja have interacted with human societies and cultivate hunts can, has, and will ruffle feathers of some Predator fans. But I have come to learn that a lot of Predator fans are some of the pickiest fans I've seen outside of a lot of anime communities. As a weeb, I have seen so many picky communities. Have you seen the shipping discourse of My Hero Academia? Oh my god. Personally, I absolutely dig the lore. Humans and Yautja having such a rich history together is something that I find very fascinating. And there are people who find the team up between Lex and Scar to be ridiculous. Again, something that I absolutely love, but I do understand why people might not like it. I enjoy the silly script, the shenanigans, the general ridiculousness of it all. Lex is one of my favorite human protagonists, and Scar is just so fucking cool. Alright, obligatory Yautja segment time. The brothers here are Chopper, Celtic, and Scar. These 3 are fucking beefed up. Oh my god, do you see how wide their shoulders are? They're built like Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. They're built like goddamn Escanor from Seven Deadly Sins. They're supposed to be like teenagers, which is fucking hilarious to me, considering the fact they all have the same stature as Doom Guy. Eternal Doom Guy. I love their designs. The armor looks great. The masks are so unique and interesting, but I will say that my boy Scar is a bit, ugly. Yeah, some of the practical effects in this movie don't quite hold up the best, but I'll get there. Let me nerd out about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Predators real quick. He has quite a personality, being relatively sassy like a lot of his predecessors, but also being deeply respectful, and he also has a sense of humor. The bond he and Lexi have toward the end of the movie is one of the many moments that just make me go, hell yeah. The motif of being a smart fighter carries on not only with him, but also with Lex. They defeat the Xeno Queen with wit rather than pure brute strength. He's one of my favorites for sure, even if he is a bit hideous. It's a shame he became the victim of the Emperor ending. Now let's talk about the Xenos here for a minute. I've only seen 3 Alien movies, the first 2 and Romulus. These fuckers are scary in their respective movies, and here they are a major threat. The CGI on them generally looks good, especially for the time. This movie came out in 2004, by the way. Now the Queen? This thing always freaked me out. I remember watching Aliens for the first time and just being in a state of recoil the entire time it was on screen. This movie can be a bit inconsistent with how strong the Xenos can be, but seeing how this is made by the same guy who made several video game adaptations, it is understandable why he made them kind of more into video game style enemies, kind of like the zombies from Resident Evil. I am referencing Resident Evil so much in this video. They look great here, they're awesome. God, I love this movie so much. Now let's talk effects here for a minute. As I mentioned, Scar is a little bit hideous, even by Yautja's standards. When you watch the movie, you can tell that this headpiece is much different quality than the rest of the Yautja that we have seen up to this point. This is technically the 3rd Predator film, which means Stan Winston is no longer on the case, and the effects were handed over to Amalgamated Dynamics. They've had their hands on projects such as Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy to Santa Claus, the one with Tim Allen, and several of the Alien franchise movies. You've also seen them do the effects for the bottom 2 on the list here, Requiem and Shane Black's The Predator. All around, I've seen much worse in terms of effects. I love the vibe, and the creature designs just go hard. I do significantly prefer Stan Winston's creations, especially since, they're Stan Winston and they are such higher quality. But here they're not too shabby. Scar is rough around the edges, very, very rough around the edges. And some of the CGI is bad, especially the blood. But thankfully a good portion of this movie is practical and knows how to actually do good dark lighting, Requiem. The choice to go mostly practical here was a great one. Now let's talk about the central issue that I have with this film. This is one of only 2 Predator films rated PG-13, the other one being Badlands. It works in Badlands because they aren't using human blood, so they can get away with being incredibly violent. While this one can't really do that because there's a lot of humans. Keeping this movie PG-13 was likely done to increase the audience outreach, letting younger Predator and Alien fans see this movie easier than if it were rated R. However, this decision does make the movie feel like it's pulling a lot of its punches. This isn't just a Predator film, but also an Alien film. Even though I've only seen 3 of them, these movies are gnarly as fuck. Oh my god. I get grossed out watching them every single time. From the chestbursters to the offspring. Oh my god, the offspring from Romulus. I can't even look at it. Ew. I'm not saying make these films a gore fest like Terrifier, Martyrs, shit like that. No. But it does feel like it's holding back a lot of the time. I watched the unrated version, which I also got the DVD for. Hell yeah, I love getting DVDs. And I was hoping for a little more content from there. But all there really was just a few fucks said. On top of that, the script is fairly generic. I do like the direction it takes, being a scientific expedition gone wrong, but it's not really anything revolutionary. Some parts are pretty out there in a good way, at least for me, like again, Lex and Scar becoming friends, but also killing off Wayland. Well, one of the Waylands. Charles Bishop Wayland to be specific. Other than those 2 things, it is a fairly standard script that is largely elevated by spectacular environments and just crazy shenanigans. In the grand scheme of things, I would have rather had a standard script as opposed to the less than stellar ones that we've already talked about. Requiem. The first AVP is a competent, really fun movie. How do you fumble that fucking hard? But I digress. Now, why do I have this above Predator 2 despite these major critiques? By the way, I only have this a little bit above Predator 2. That would be because this movie is awesome. That's it. That's just it. It's just awesome. Look, I am a simple-minded cat. I see scary aliens fighting, strong female lead, cool architecture, weird science shit, and a chase scene with the Xeno Queen, and you've got me hooked. Both of these Predator films are very, very, very flawed, especially when it comes to the script writing. And even so, I still enjoy them so much. This one just gets more hell yeahs out of me on average. And the boss fight again with the Xeno Queen. I'm sorry, Danny Glover, but you have been outmatched by this horrifying matriarchal monstrosity. Jesus Christ, this thing scares me. Such a strange movie, but I love it so much if I have not made it clear already. It isn't for everyone, it isn't for every single Predator or Alien fan, and I deeply understand why this frustrates a lot of people. But I love it. I love the silliness, I love the awesomeness. I love just enjoying the cool aliens fighting and all the weird shit that comes with it.
This is the way.
Coming in third place is my number 4 movie from last year, Badlands. This movie gets a lot of flack and I do understand why. However, I am not on that side. I fucking love this movie so much. Similar to Prey, which I'll get to here soon, this is an underdog story, but with a twist. This is the first movie, I'm saying movie specifically, in the franchise to fully follow a Yautja. We do get a bunch of scenes in the previous movies, notably AVP, where we do follow the Yautja for quite a while. But the entire movie here follows around Deck, proving his worth. This movie is an amazing elaboration on Yautja culture and further contributes to the sheer diversity we've come to expect. Deck is a runt, malformed, tiny, seen as weak, and is desperate to bring home his first trophy. After learning about his daddy issues, he is sent off to Genna, where we meet his new bestie, Thea, played by the wonderful Elle Fanning. I love their dynamic so much, not to mention the further expansion on the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Seeing how a synth and a Yautja become friends through how completely different they are, and some of the scuffles that they have, just tickles a part of my heart that loves the found family trope. Thea is also a very fun and compelling protagonist in her own way, very charismatic, very fun. She is just so charming between the dialogue she's given and, of course, Elle Fanning's performance. Her character is so charming, so curious, and even when she betrays Deck, she feels awful about it and tries to help him the best way that she can. Tessa here is also a really fun villain to have. The world of Genna is dangerous, and Deck learns quickly how to adapt. This film has the core identity of a Predator film, using your brains and resources to win rather than pure brute strength. A lot of people don't like that this film quote-unquote humanizes a Yautja, but I think we're forgetting something here. They are an extremely intelligent species with emotions just like us. Even going back to the first film, we see true emotions from the Yautja. Jungle Hunter was arrogant and frankly a sassy little shit. Pretty much every single Yautja has expressed emotions and intellect. Because they aren't bloodthirsty beasts, they have culture. Having this depth to the species is what Trachtenberg is trying to show through this series of movies. Deck is an intelligent and emotional creature. That's the whole point of his character. He also holds deep respect, which is why he befriends Thea and Bud. If you prefer more intimidating Yautja like Jungle Hunter or Berserker, I totally get you. I really, really do. But to fully deny the psychological and cultural depth of the species is just absurd to me. Moving on from that little rant there is a huge problem that I have with this movie that irks me more every single time I watch it. Bud. She is a very important piece of the story, do not get me wrong, but I do not like the characterization and frankly how she looks. She's meant to be a Grogu slash baby teen Groot ordeal, but it just gets on my nerves. A lot of people compare this movie to being a sort of modern Star Wars movie, something like The Mandalorian, and I see it. I do see it. There are a lot of shots in this movie that feel like they're straight out of Star Wars. A lot of the comedy, a lot of the characterization. It does feel like Disney has its hands on the property, and that part does worry me, especially for the future of this franchise, because the series has always been under 20th Century Fox, which is a subsidiary of Disney. I don't know if subsidiary is the right word, but I'm just using it. but Disney does have a bit more of a hand now, and I'm hoping that the tone of this movie does not continue forward. It's good as a standalone, it fits perfectly here, I'm good with that, though again there are some things that I don't like, but all around, hopefully it just stays sequestered into this movie, and every single movie has a different identity. And there's also a cliffhanger that I'm praying gets fulfilled. Stop with the cliffhanger endings, Trachtenberg, please. Other than those two, I don't really have a lot of complaints about this. I just have mostly praise for the characters. This is a very character-driven film, and I love that. I love Deck, I love Thea. They are fantastic standalones and also as a pair. It is an incredible development on the Yautja, and of course we get to hear even more of the language fully utilized. And like I said earlier, we get a little more elaboration on Weyland-Yutani shenanigans, and frankly, it is just a super fun underdog movie with weird aliens, weird robots. Listen to the album, watch the movie. It's amazing, please.
Come on, girl, you got walkers all around you. They're in the woods.
Our runner-up would be the first of the Trachtenberg era, Prey. This is a back to form while kicking off certain tropes that you'll see in Killer of Killers and Badlands. This film takes place in the 1700s and follows a Comanche woman named Nadu, who is trying to prove her worth to her tribe and older brother. Sound familiar? The setting is perfect, the setup is phenomenal, and it holds up the very basis of this franchise, which I've mentioned time and time again. Nadu isn't the physically strongest, but has fortitude and strategy. This also started the trend of the underdog through the Trachtenberg era. Underdogs have existed through the franchise prior, don't get it twisted, but this really exemplifies the underdog trope. Now this film is a bit of a slow burn, which I can understand why it may turn off a lot of people. Kind of similar to the first movie, but with a lot less flashy action like the first movie has. We don't see much of the Yautja for a good while, but he does get a lot more screen time than one would expect. Focusing on the human side, it's incredibly investing to see how Nadu proves herself. As I've stated several times by now, most of the female characters in this series are very well written, strong characters, and Nadu is no exception. Her character is pretty similar to what we see with Deck. Someone who is viewed as lesser in their family, out to prove their worth in a hunt that really gets them into trouble. She's a great character. I love seeing her use her intellect against both the Yautja and the French hunters. Seeing how she's treated by many of the men in her tribe, it really does get you to root for her pretty early on. Honestly, she's my favorite human character right alongside Dutch. Obligatory Yautja time. Let's talk about the feral predator. There's a good amount of people who don't particularly like his design. I am not one of those people. I fucking love how he looks. He is supposed to be from a very different region of Yautja Prime, which is the predator home planet, and regional diversity is not uncommon in organisms. Look at the birds on our planet. Have you seen how fucking weird and diverse they are? He's also intimidating as hell. It's clear, especially during the battle with the Comanche search party, that he is very skilled and is much more bloodthirsty. He can tank being impaled, slashed at, shot, and his sheer brutality makes him a formidable threat. It feels like a breath of fresh air with this classic take with a new spin on the series' focus. I'm not an expert on Native American history by any means. I cannot attest to the complete historical accuracy and portrayal of the Comanche people in this film, but considering the history of indigenous representation in Hollywood, this is by far probably the best I've ever seen, at least from what I can tell. If you have knowledge that relates to the Comanche portrayal of this movie, please share your thoughts. Same goes for the French here, honestly. Speaking of the French, this is also where we find out where the infamous Raphael Adolini, I probably butchered that, gun originates from that we see in Predator 2. Having a more historical piece rather than the usual scenery of the concrete jungle, urban scenery, gun grunge, or just stereotypical sci-fi stuff is yet another choice that breathes fresh life into this movie. It feels fresh, like a nice cold pink lemonade on a summer afternoon. Considering this was the debut for Trachtenberg's saga, I'd say he hit it off with a fucking bang. We're establishing diversity both within the Yautja as a species and culture, as well as the human stories. Replicating the greatness of the original Predator while also doing something new is a feat that we have seen try and fail time and time again. Prey understands the simplicity and the complexity of why we love the first movie. Strong, intelligent leads, an intimidating monster, fun fights, and breaking the status quo. The beginning is pretty slow, like I said earlier. It does take a while to fully get to the Predator side of the film, but the payoff is certainly worth it, and again, it builds up Naru's character. I love Naru, she's such an awesome character. If I had to make another minor criticism, it would be the CGI. I don't mind it nearly as much as other people do, but I would have liked to have seen significantly more of the practical effects. The animals being CGI, whatever, I'm not expecting you to throw a fucking mountain lion onto a tree for this movie, but there is some CGI used for Feral. His practical look is utterly stunning, and you can tell in the movie how awesome it looks. So using CGI to cover some of the stuff up while it is understandable can look kind of ugly at times. Other than those things, this is a great movie for both fans and newcomers. It shows that Trachtenberg really does understand why this franchise is misunderstood and intends to correct the future toward a better light rather than sloppy sequel after sloppy sequel. His current trilogy is not for everybody. I totally understand that, whether it be outsiders or people within the Predator fandom. I totally get that. However, they work perfectly for me. There are minor criticisms that I have for all three of these movies, of course, but all around, I love Trachtenberg's Predator movies. I greatly look forward to seeing what else he has in store.
Get to the chopper!
And of course, at the number one spot, we have The Original Predator by John McTiernan, who you may also know as the director of Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance. This, of course, was the first Predator film that I saw, and this is a film that nails the claustrophobic feel of the jungle warfare. When I first watched it, I felt the sense of just pure unease the entire time. They do an amazing job of showing just how imposing and unsettling the Yautja is. Speaking of the Yautja, guess what time it is? Fun fact of the day. The Jungle Hunter did not always look like this. It originally had this weird Men in Black bug alien creature look to it, with a little bit of Ultraman and Mechagodzilla in there. That's the best way I can describe it. It's so funky looking. They even actually filmed some scenes with it, if I remember correctly. However, the suit was, well, unsuitable for what they needed for the alien. And I think it was also supposed to be a pack of aliens instead of, just one guy. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So none other than the effects king himself, Stan Winston, who I mentioned previously, was commissioned to create the iconic Yautja we know today. I very highly recommend checking out the Stan Winston School website to see the process of how the costume was built. If you somehow don't know the name of Stan Winston, you may also know him for his works on effects for Terminator, Aliens, Jurassic Park, Edward Scissorhands, and the list just keeps going and going and going. He also directed a few of his own films, including Pumpkinhead. Fun film, ridiculous premise, and the monster, of course, looks awesome. His legacy lives on through the Stan Winston School and some of the most iconic sci-fi films of all time. Sorry, I'm just a huge sucker for practical effects. I love talking about practical effects and Stan Winston in particular. Also, I would just like you to know that the voice actor for all the weird, chittering, warbling, all these other sound effects that the Yautja makes are from Peter Cullen, the voice actor for the 80s Optimus Prime and Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Let that sink in for a minute. The voice actor for the Jungle Hunter Yautja from the first Predator film also voiced Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. That is absurd to me. Getting back on track here, this is a film that took the spin on the gunfire Macho Man action movie by not only implementing horror, but the whole twist of this being that Arnie wins through sheer intellect rather than relying purely on his strength. It's not an entirely foreign concept, of course, however it is executed stupendously in this movie. Through the movie, with each interaction and firefight, every single moment, we learn exactly how each character thinks, operates, their personality, everything, but especially Schwarzenegger's character, Dutch. Every time I rewatch this film, I learn something new about Dutch, Dylan, who's played by Carl Weathers, and their entire crew. I'm genuinely surprised each time just how much they managed to actually characterize what is effectively beefed up cannon fodder. This doesn't fully extend to the character of, I think her name's Gabriella, I could be wrong on that, but she still gets her chances to show her intellect when the Jungle Hunter shows up. She is still integral to the plot. I wish they had more to it, but it's 1987. Not just the crew, but also the Yautja are incredibly well set up. The opening shot of this movie leaves such mystery. Aliens, in my Sweaty Muscle Man movie, absurdity. And as the movie goes on, we see more of not just what he looks like, but how he operates, how he thinks. He loves to skin and disembowel men. He loves to taunt. He's arrogant, and yet he remains in observation mode through a good majority of the movie. Once the final showdown starts, we see how truly intelligent and also strangely respectful. We see all throughout the movie that he's not just a hungry alien, but rather an intelligent hunter. He knows the jungle, he knows who to attack and when. He has a sense of morality, and it slowly learns how to mimic English. He acknowledges the strength and prowess Dutch has, removing his mask and revealing that
You one ugly motherfucker.
each interaction gives us something to learn about the characters, the operation, the alien. Not a single moment is wasted. Even with this scene that may seem really dramatic at first, where the entire crew just opens fire in the middle of the jungle, and that goes on for like 2 minutes, even that has thematic purpose. It is a commentary on American military tactics. Even as an action movie from the 80s, it is still incredibly thematically rich. It is a fun, classic action thriller with amazing effects and brilliant characters. Every time I rewatch this movie, I am reminded of every single reason why I absolutely adore this movie. If you haven't seen this movie before, absolutely give it a shot. First of all, it's a Schwarzenegger classic. You cannot go wrong with our beloved Austrian bodybuilder. And let's not forget the awesome alien design and a whole lot of fun action in the middle of the jungle. Holy fuck, I'm done doing rankings for a bit. It's always over an hour long. Oh my god. My editing software decided to kill my project, so I had to completely change softwares, which is why this video and a couple previous videos have been a little strange in the editing department. I do apologize. But never mind that. The Predator franchise is a bizarre one. The first movie is one of the most iconic sci-fi horror movies ever created. Half of the sequels are abominations, and there's 2 crossover movies with the fucking Alien franchise. With one exception, I do have a lot of fun with these movies. Studying the Yautja has become one of my favorite pastimes. Again, ask anyone who knows me in real life and they'll attest to how fucking insufferable I am when I get hooked onto something like this. The last one was Outlast. I'm still insufferable about it, but oh my god, it's a problem. Each movie has its own identity, though some do live up more to the core foundation of what made the original so iconic. Some take a great twist on the original formula, some branch out, and they do good, and sometimes that branching out is not good at all. But even when the bad ones fail miserably, they're so bad that you can just have a great movie night if you're in the mood. I mean, just the concept of a Yautja trying to steal autism from a kid is batshit insane. It's hilarious, but it's so egregious. The future looks bright for this franchise. Every time I open my phone, news for potential new movies just keep popping up. Sequels for Prey and Badlands, a new AVP, with Fede Alvarez who did Alien Romulus. Trachtenberg is on this shit like an AO3 writer. It's absurd. No matter what the future holds for this franchise, I will always be there opening day. Thank you so much for watching through here to the end. This is definitely not my longest video, but it is decently long. I'm going to keep on going with the new release reviews, whether it be videos or posts. I want to talk about every single movie that I see in the theaters this year. Feel free to stalk my letterbox to see what I'm watching and potentially what I'm going to see later in this year. That's about it on my end. Y'all take care, stay safe, and I'll be seeing y'all soon.